Stop number 2 on the 6-game road trip for the Golden State Warriors. And, of course, they're trying to bounce back from Saturday's loss to the Atlanta Hawks, 124-115. Well, we know this game is bigger than usual because it's the return of Jimmy Butler down in South Beach, Miami. His last game he played for the Miami Heat back on January 21st. And we know how it ended. It ended with him being in the Bay, but he makes his return there to the Kaseya Center in South Beach, Miami. And we welcome everybody to Warriors Pregame Live, presented by Comcast Business with the Hall of Famer Chris Mullin and NBA champion Festus Ezeli. I am Bonte Hill and Jimmy Butler, as we keep saying, Big Face Coffee back in town.
Back in town. This is a revenge game. Bonte, what do we say to people that get traded from a team?
They didn't want you.
They didn't want you. And this is going to be a game for Jimmy Butler to remind the Miami Heat of who he was to them. And, you know, Jimmy Butler was a guy that took this team to 2 NBA finals. That's something you'll never forget, Bonte.
And we can say the same thing about Andrew Wiggins coming off a 42-point performance. Wiggins will be looking for some revenge as well, Bully.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler, since he's arrived at the Warriors, they're 16-4. Andrew Wiggins was a championship player, had a great run with the Warriors. Should be a tremendous matchup tonight.
No doubt, coming out that 42 and a vital part of that 2022 NBA championship team with the Golden State Warriors. Plus, we'll have the latest on Stephen Curry. Will he be in the lineup tonight or will he not be after missing Saturday's game due to a pelvic contusion against the Hawks? More coming up here on Warriors Pregame Live. Stephen Curry, you see, is out tonight. He'll miss his second consecutive game due to a pelvic contusion. Gary Payton II, however, is available with the nasal bone fracture. Bam Adebayo available for the Miami Heat, as well as Tyler Hero. But Nikola Jovic and Duncan Robinson, they destroyed the Warriors back on January 7th off the bench with a combined 32 points and 12 assists. They will not go tonight for the Miami Heat, who finally got a win on Sunday against the Charlotte Hornets after losing 10 consecutive games. But let's focus on Stephen Curry, who's going to get some rest here. He did fly down to Miami earlier in the week, got a workout in, but Steve Kerr said he wasn't quite comfortable as he saw some movements there that he just didn't feel right about. So he'll sit out tonight, and hopefully he will go Friday. But a very good opportunity for Stephen Curry to get some rest. He's been logging a lot of minutes, played in a lot of games. This will be the 12th game he's missed this season. So not the worst case scenario for the Golden State Warriors, Willie.
First off, Bonte, that was a nasty fall right on your tailbone. And, you know, the next day you're so sore. So the MRI came back clean. So that's great news. But I think it's a smart thing to take tonight. You get an extra 3 days and then see how he feels Friday.
Glass half full with me. Steph gets more time to rest, get better. The Warriors get to use this time to shore up a lot of things that they've seen slip over the time that Steph has been out. Some defensive slip-ups. You've seen the Warriors win defensively without Steph in the game. Last game, they really got torched in the paint. You saw the defensive, the shell. Guys were out of place, were overhelping. These are things that they can work on tonight. But also tonight, without Steph in the game, that changes up the defensive game plan for the Miami Heat. Now they can go into zone. They can try to throw the Warriors off their kilter. So it's going to put a lot of onus on Jimmy Butler, but on guys like Moses Moody, Brandon Podziemski, and Gary Payton II to hit shots.
Yeah, I think for tonight's game, what I'm looking at defensively is field goal percentage. The last Toronto and the last game, both teams shot over 55% from the field. We talked about points in the paint, so shoring that up. Those numbers, you cannot have a team shoot 55% and win on the road.
No doubt about that. Atlanta torched them with a 40-point first quarter, shot 65% in that opening frame. But it is the return of Jimmy Butler and Big Face Coffee. Walking through the visitor sides for the first time since 2019, of course. You see the numbers that he had with the Miami Heat, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, led them to multiple NBA Finals, 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. You see his postseason career all-time with the Miami Heat. He's up there with the likes of Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. However, here's what he had to say about his return on Monday. He seemed unmoved by his return to South Beach.
I don't got no thoughts. Like I said, man, I don't got nothing to say to nobody. I don't have no hard feelings. I'm in a better place now for me. And continued success to those guys over there. No, this is basketball. This is very simple. I don't have all the emotions that everybody thinks that I'm going to have. Like, it is what it is. I realized that I had some great years here. I've built some incredible bonds with some individuals in the organization, in the city, hell, in the state of Florida. But I'm going in there to hoop. I'm going in there to play basketball. Ain't nothing nobody say, nothing nobody do is finna get me out of character. And nobody got me out of character whenever I was going through what I was going through this entire season with the suspension. It's another day for me.
So Jimmy says it's just another day at the office. But what happens when he warms up tonight? He's in that building and he sees Heat Nation and they're cheering on their team and maybe they give him a video tribute. I have no idea. But do you think that will change once we get closer and closer to tip-off, Fezzi?
Well, Bonte, the goal for every player is to be able to use all the emotions to your advantage. And if you can channel whatever that is, Bonte, you talk about they didn't want you or any of that energy to getting your team to win tonight. That's the goal. But Jimmy Butler is a guy that I've noticed throughout the time he's been here with the Warriors, he's not a guy who's rattled in the moment. Even when he gets fouled a lot of times, he's not a guy that goes complaining to the refs. Like, he's somebody who's very measured and calm and collected. And I actually believe that what he said right there. He said, it's just another game. I got to come in here and get the win tonight.
Nothing personal, strictly business. And I agree with Festus. I've never met Jimmy Butler. But watching him on the court, he never says a word to the refs. He's always even-keeled. And, when you play a long season like this, the ideal temperament is an even keel. When you win games, you're appreciative and you enjoy it. You don't get too high. And when you lose, you try and move on to the next one and correct your mistakes. He has that type of attitude. Now, as far as when the game starts, the pregame may be a little emotional, but I think he's the type player. He's shown he's focused. So once that game starts, I think all the players, the jump ball goes up. Once the game gets going, all the emotions out of it. So I think he's actually trying to make sure he doesn't lose control of his emotions.
Since he's been traded over from the Miami Heat, I remember our live reaction when the trade happened. It was during our pregame show. Then the extension came down. Fezzi, I'll start with you. Are you a little surprised at the way the Warriors have responded to that trade? 16-4 since Jimmy Butler's come aboard, 16-3 when he plays in a game.
Well, Jimmy Butler came to the Warriors, and he fixed everything the Warriors needed. Like, they struggled with points in the paint. Well, that's what Jimmy Butler is really good at. Well, probably number one-on-one player in the league, and he gets to the line more than, right there up there with anybody. So points in the paint, free throws, scoring in the clutch, defensive rotations. These are all things that he is so good at, and the Warriors needed it. It actually reminds me about the power of one player. Having a guy come in just was the perfect fit alongside Steph Curry. Him being able to work on the inside, Jimmy, Steph being able to work on the outside. It also creates space for the likes of Brandon Pajemski and activates all the role players. Moses Moody has been incredible, terrific. Kevon Looney, Quentin Post is another guy who's really showing up. So for the Warriors, the ability to score, but also the ability to play, make, and create for other guys, he has been incredible for the Warriors.
Yeah, the one thing I'm surprised at, Bonte, Jimmy Butler's been a great player his entire career. He's an all-star level player, and he's been played at a superstar level. But me, as Festus said, he's the number one isolation player in the league and the best at it. But the Warriors have never really had an isolation player incorporated into their free-flow rhythm offense. I'm surprised how well that has fit. It actually has fit like a glove. It just shows you how much they were missing a guy that can get in the post, face up, score on his own, get to the paint, draw fouls, and most importantly, create open looks for his teammates. So he's done all of that, but I don't think Steve Kerr's had a player like him. Maybe Kevin Durant to a degree, but Kevin still was on the perimeter more. So this guy is exclusively inside the paint, one-on-one, ISO, and it's incorporated with the free-flowing offense. So to me, that's the surprise.
Dead last in free throw percentage before Jimmy Butler arrived. Since he's arrived, they're tied for third in the NBA for the best free throw percentage there. As we connect, courtesy of Comcast Business, every connection counts with the pride of Yale. Z Decatur, he's back in the building, along with our Hall of Famer Warriors Insider here at NBC Sports Bay Area. Monty, Poole, and Zena, I'll kick it to you. How do you think the Jimmy Butler trade is fair so far for the Golden State Warriors? It's hard to argue with the record, right? 16-4.
Of course. It's been phenomenal, and I love what Mully said. It has fit like a glove. And I always think about, why is Jimmy called playoff Jimmy? Why is he called Jimmy Buckets, but particularly playoff Jimmy? When you think about the fact that Jimmy has willed two Miami Heat teams in 2020 and in 2023 to the NBA Finals that weren't teaming with NBA superstars. In that run in 2023, he also scored at least 40 points 8 times, despite never having reached 40 points during the regular season. These are some crazy numbers that he was able to accomplish. He is someone that elevates teams. He's a tide that raises all ships. But now, Monty, the question is, how high can he carry the Warrior ship?
Yeah, that's the big question. Steve Kerr likes to say that he wants 20 games to get a gauge of where the team sits, whether it's the start of the season, the middle of the season, or the end of the season. And Jimmy's been around for 20 games, I should say. And 16-4 is the record. And you look at Jimmy's numbers, they're not eye-popping, 17 plus points a game, 5.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds. They don't blow you away. When you watch the Warriors play and you see his impact, I think the greatest thing he has brought to this team is a sense of composure, a sense of comfort. When a star walks into your locker room, you feel better. Especially a struggling team, like the Warriors were struggling. And Jimmy Butler comes in, it's like, okay, we got something now. We got a dude. Let's roll. And you see them feeling that. You see the confidence filtering through the roster. The entire team is better for his presence.
Do not underestimate the power of a dude, Bonte. That can change the entire chemistry on the team on the court when you got a dude that you can get the ball to.
I've got a couple dudes right here.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Monty. All right. The tie that raises all ships. I like that. As we take a look at our Toyota poll question, go ahead and skate our QR code on the right.
That's Yale right there.
Side of the screen. That's Yale right there. You like that? Do you like that? I'm going to have to steal that one, Tina. Butler's best attribute through 20 games with the Golden State Warriors. Is it his offensive efficiency, overall connectivity, defensive presence, or is it his leadership? Go ahead and vote right now. Dalton live in Miami at the Kaseya Center, getting ready for Jimmy Butler's return with the Golden State Warriors against the Miami Heat. Of course, our Warriors reporter here at NBC Sports Bay Area. Dalton, you've been down there all week long, and it feels like Jimmy Butler's been unmoved with his emotions in his return back to Miami.
At least what he's telling us, guys, is that this is just another game. But let's be real. This does not just feel like another Tuesday night out here by any means necessary. He's going to say it's on a revenge game. I don't see it as a revenge game, but there's so much going on around here in Miami. So especially without Steph Curry playing tonight, the spotlight's only going to shine even brighter on Jimmy Butler. In 2 games without Steph Curry so far for Jimmy Butler with the Warriors, he has scored 24 and 25 points on 46.5% shooting. But just as importantly, he's averaged 9 assists in those 2 games and gone 20 of 25 from the free throw line. So we just cannot wait to see what his reaction is going to be when this tribute video plays and just how the crowd's going to react. If Jimmy gets going, if he misses a few shots, if he makes a few shots, I can't wait to see what's going to happen tonight. Jimmy Butler back in Miami.
Quickly, before we get to Big Face Coffee and how you explore that, Andrew Wiggins, how's he feeling? I know you had to sit down with Wiggs.
Yeah, he just feels appreciative, guys. I mean, I think that he has nothing but love for the Warriors. And just what he reiterated over and over is that he's excited to see those guys, that he loves the fan base, that he loved this city, he loved this time with the organization. Anytime a trade midseason, it's hard for everybody. But these last 2 games, Andrew Wiggins has been balling. We're talking 42 points, we're talking 30 points. So it'll be great for him to see his former coaches and teammates, but also to see him continuing to get better and better and more in the flow of this Heat offensive system.
Shot 38% from the three-point line in this tenure with the Golden State Warriors. That's two-way Wig. He sat down with Andrew Wiggins, who had a fine tenure with the Golden State Warriors that culminated in a championship back in 2022. Here's what Steve Kerr had to say about two-way Wigs.
One of the best human beings I've ever been around. Just an amazing teammate, wonderful to coach, so coachable, so team-oriented, great family man. He and Michael have their 3 kids. That's what I think made the trade the most difficult. It was that, Wiggs had his little boy, Amari, I think a week or 2 weeks before the trade. And, and I know it's the business of the NBA, but, when you love, a guy like we loved Wiggs, every guy on the team loved Wiggs. When you see him have to uproot his family or leave his family, actually, because of the circumstances, it's tough. It's tough to say goodbye to somebody like that. But it's the nature of the business. We all understand it when we get into it. Wiggs understands that. And, it was very tough to say goodbye to him. But, that bond will remain forever. Wiggs is awesome.
All right, last Sunday, the Miami Heat won their second game in the month of March. Yeah, they've been struggling. They were on a 10-game losing streak. But then Andrew Wiggins against the Charlotte Hornets, one of the worst teams in the league, he exploded for 42 points.
Oh, work out, Wiggs.
16 to 21 from the floor, 6 of 8 from the three-point line, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals and a block. He filled the stat sheet. And with the Golden State Warriors in 307 games in the regular season, he averaged about 17 a game with 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and shot 46% from the floor while shooting 38% from the three-point line. So a hard move the Warriors had to make. And you heard Steve Kerr, he loves Andrew Wiggins. His teammates love Andrew Wiggins. And I think soon, when you look at these numbers on the wall, his Miami Heat teammates will love two-way Wiggs as well.
I love what Steve Kerr said. They love Andrew Wiggins, but that bump Andrew Wiggins. And during that run, he did everything. You see these numbers, points per game. You've always known Andrew Wiggins to be a scorer. He's the first pick in the NBA draft. But when he came to the Golden State Warriors, he had the defensive part of his game unlocked. And he became the second best player in that championship run. You had moments where you had to ask him to guard Luka Doncic, and he was also one of the leading rebounders on the team, and he was also one of the leading scorers. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is as talented as they come, and for the Warriors, obviously, it's always hard to lose a brother.
Andrew Wiggins has had a great NBA career. I think he doesn't get enough credit for as good as he's played. Obviously, being the number 1 pick to Minnesota, high expectations. He averaged over 20 points per game there. He came to the Warriors, became a champion. As Festus said, defensively, we know his aggressiveness on the boards. You look at those numbers, that's one thing Pat Riley's going to want more rebounding from him. But he's had a great career, but he was a great teammate. I thought he's always handled himself with humility and grace, both on and off the floor. He's a great teammate, and he was as good a fit as Jimmy Butler is now, just different times.
No doubt about that. So we want to celebrate Andrew Wiggins and not forget about his time with the Golden State Warriors. So it's time for another episode of Bonte's Big Screen, where we celebrate some of the greatest moments Andrew Wiggins had with the Golden State Warriors. Let's kick it off with the first one. That series against the Memphis Grizzlies, those hated Grizzlies. Of course, that was a 6-game series which the Warriors won. He had 2 double-doubles in that series, 20 and 11 in the eliminator game against the Memphis Grizzlies. And he had a monster dunk here on Brady Clark. Look at his dunk early in the series. Oh!
But if you remember this series, Steve Kerr went to Andrew Wiggins directly, so we need more rebounding. And he answered the call because he's so gifted. Not many players can just go do what you need him to do. But Wiggs has so much ability and talent. Tell him what you need, and he'll go get it for you, Fezzi.
I mean, the beautiful part of this series was that the bigs were the advantage for the Memphis Grizzlies. When you take it to a big like this, I don't like talking bad about my bigs. You know this. But when you take it to a big just like that, you got to take it strong, and that way you negate what they do, which is the defensive prowess in the middle of the paint.
Had a heck of a series against Memphis. The Warriors upset them in 6 games, eliminating them at Chase Center, where Andrew Wiggins had 20 and 11. Then we move on to the Western Conference Finals. And this was the most memorable dunk, even though Mark Davis, one of the lead officials, tried to call it a charge, but we knew this was clean, and this was basically game over, series over.
All right, talk about answering the call right here. You see the star player for the other team in the middle of the lane. What do you do, Bonte? Put it on his head. Pause.
Hey, get the Mavericks into rotation, attack the closeout, and finish over Luka.
Look at Luka. He jumped, and then he tried to make a business decision. Then he tried to flock for the foul.
Do you see the look on Andrew Wiggins' face right there? He dunks this. Look at. He was a man with a plan right there. He knew exactly where he was going. But that's why Steve Kerr loves this man so much, because he asked him for the defensive rebounding, asked him to attack, asked him to do all the things defensively. He was guarding Luka, who's the best player for the team, and also offensively. Come on, man. Who's doing that?
No, it was a dynamic series for him. He had a dynamic playoff run. Of course, with the championship against the Boston Celtics, his Game 5. 26-13 at Chase Center with the series tied at 2 games apiece. Remember, Stephen Curry, I believe, only made 1 3 in this game after his great Game 4 performance, but Andrew Wiggins stepped up with a big 26 points, 13 rebounds. You see that block shot right there? He's everywhere on the floor against the Celtics in that series.
This was the crowning moment of Wiggins' career up until this point, becoming a champion, stepping up big time in the NBA Finals. And I think this performance is what Pat Riley sees in the future when you surround Andrew with the right players.
Oh,
unlimited talent, incredible teammate. We will hope he can get to this level again in the future in his career.
Winning an NBA championship in the NBA is tough. Going through the journey is incredibly hard. You go through moments where you feel like you can't do it. You go through moments where as a team, you figure out how to collectively step up whenever your star is down. Like right now, Steph Curry is out. And Andrew Wiggins has had to do that so many times here with the Golden State Warriors. This is why you appreciate him. But at the same time, when you're a champion, that brotherhood, that bond will be with you guys forever.
I forgot about some of those nasty dunks and the emotion on his face. He had a couple dunks early in the season that we're going to play against Karl-Anthony Towns. Andrew Wiggins with a dynamic season that, of course, ended with an NBA championship, the first and only of his career. But with that said, it's back to business. Can Draymond Green and the Dubs make the leap to number 5 out west? Stay tuned for the wild Western Conference standings. The Timberwolves and Anthony Edwards in Indiana at Gainbridge Center to take on Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers. First quarter, early in the first quarter, 9-7 lead for the Pacers. Nice little floater by Tyrese Halliburton. And he started to pick his game up. Look, back to the same spot there in the paint. That's pretty nice there. Indiana with an 8-point lead. 10-point lead here. Anthony Edwards, this is what he can do.
Ooh.
We want to see more of that. Yeah, we want to see more of that. Not the threes that he settles for here, but Obi Toppin making a name for himself. Hit a big three against Minnesota last week in an overtime thriller. You see the three right there. Indiana's off and running here. Tyrese Halliburton says, I'll throw the alley-oop to Pascal Siakam. Pacers win big by 16, 119 and 103. What's going on with the Lakers? Got blown out by the Chicago Bulls Saturday night as Dwight Howard enters the Orlando Hall of Fame. Good for him. Ring of Honor. And Luka Doncic, that's what he can do. 22-16 Lakers. Lakers off and running up 7. LeBron James playing some bully ball there. Lakers up big, but the Magic will fight back. Franz Wagner going to the rack. Look at that floater right there with the right hand. Here's Paolo Banchero out of Duke University. Hasn't shot the three ball great this season, but he is more than capable of doing it. And you see it right there. Luka gets stripped. And the Magic are off and running. Cole Anthony going to the coast. Magic upset the Lakers, 118 and 106. Big time three right there. Dwight Howard's happy. He still wants a job, too. Look at him dancing after the game. Getting his fezzy out as he check out the wild Western Conference standings. Yeah! There it is. The Warriors hold on to that 6th spot as the Clippers lost to the Thunder on Sunday at Intuit Dome. A very good game. SJ was a little too much. The Rockets, they won't lose. They have 26 losses right now in the 2 spot. And you see the battle for the 3rd spot in the Western Conference. Denver, Lakers, Memphis, all tied with 28 losses. It's getting wild out here. Getting wild in the West for the Warriors. It is imperative that even without the chef today, Stephen Curry, they've got to win tonight to make sure they maintain pace in the West.
Yeah, you want to stay in that left column. You do not want to drop back into that box whatsoever. You get that week off. It means you're playing good basketball and you're healthy. So you look at those standings. Tonight is a big game because you want to stay in that loss column as you always talk about, Bonte. But you got to stack wins. And ultimately, look, there's 10, 12 games that ultimately this is all about the playoffs. But you've got to finish strong, keep building good habits, and have some momentum going into that first round.
It's like volatile here towards the end because one win could take you down into the box. Another win could take you up to 5th or 4th. You never know what's going to happen in the West right now. So many things happening. But for the Warriors tonight, you're playing another game without Steph Curry. And with that, you got to figure out your spacing. You got to figure out ways to get Jimmy Butler going so that he can also get other guys going. Jonathan Kuminga has to be a huge factor tonight for the Warriors. These are all the things they have to figure out. But right now, defense for them has slipped, and they got to figure out a way to get it back.
Yeah, you don't want to really look at your standings. You want to look at how you're playing because you look back on the East Coast. The Miami Heat have lost 10 of 11, and they've maintained their 10th spot. So that's not something that you want to really, it's not encouraging that you're holding on to a play-in spot.
And they're still 5.5 up on the Toronto Raptors.
Which is absurd. But that's a whole nother story.
It's a whole other story.
That sucks, man. You work all year to be top 8 and then get beat by a number 10 team that's 10 games under 500.
They drag you down into the box.
Well, they've been dragged down without Jimmy Butler here. You see their record with Jimmy, a 500 team, but without Jimmy, 5-16. As you mentioned, Millie, they just were on a 10-game losing streak. That was snapped Sunday against the Charlotte Hornets. Their points per game has slipped. But here's what Tyler Hero and Eric Spoelstra had to say about Jimmy's return down to South Beach, Miami.
Speaking of energy and focus, it isn't just another game. I mean, it's the first time Jimmy's back. Sometimes as a player, I know you feed off the crowd, but are you interested in seeing how the crowd is going to react?
I mean, I'm not interested, but I'm sure other people are. It'll be fun for the fans, I'm sure, to see Jimmy come back, get his name, introduced in a different starting lineup. It'll be fun for sure. It's another game for us, as I'm sure it is for them. We just got to continue to worry about ourselves.
Does it give you a little bit extra juice, though? I mean, I know Andrew was going to come out here. I was going to ask him about when you play against your former team and stuff, but there's a lot involved in this game. Does it give you a little extra juice to maybe want this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's right now at this point in the season for us, we need to win any game possible. So no matter who comes in here before next game, whatever, we just got to win.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, there's a great storyline for everybody out there. we're trying to focus on, everything we've been dealing with for the last 3 weeks. I think all the emotions were late December and early January, to be frank. They're trying to do what they're trying to do. This is the NBA, so there's a lot of things that'll happen. There's a lot of change in the NBA. I think we're pretty far removed now from that kind of emotion.
All right, that's Coach Spo and Tyler Hero.
Yada.
Raspberry hoodie he had on that was working with, trying to get out of. Anyway, Tyler Hero started at point guard. Alec Burks, the former Warrior, of course, in 2019-2020. He'll start at the 2 guards. Spot our old friend Andrew Wiggins at the 3, coming off a 42-point performance against the Charlotte Hornets. Bam Adebayo, gold medalist for Team USA. Khalil Ware, what a solid night against the Warriors back on January 7th. A very nice role player, can handle the ball, can shoot the 3. So Miami, you know who's going to be in the lineup, and it really doesn't matter because you know what you're going to get from them. Heat culture, right? They're going to play hard. They're going to play intense. They're going to pay attention to detail. Now, they're not going to have Nikola Jovic or Duncan Robinson, who's combined for 32 points and 12 assists back on January 7th against the Dubs. So a shorter bench for the Miami Heat. And they're going to want to win this game, too.
Well, the Miami Heat had a short bench when they came to Chase Center here in San Francisco and whooped on the Warriors. So what they did last time as well is they made 16 threes. So you can't sleep on them.
Yep.
All right? This game right now is, I appreciate everybody saying it doesn't mean anything. The emotions are that's not true, all right? When the team trades you, you go back there wanting to whoop their tail. Can I say whoop their ass? You try to whoop their ass because you want to show them what they missed in trading you. And that's for Andrew Wiggins. That's for Jimmy Butler. That's a matchup to watch in the paint or on the wing. But at the same time, the team around them needs to galvanize around them, try to get some energy, make plays for them, make plays for each other. For the Warriors, they're trying to bounce back after a tough loss to Atlanta. And for them, this is a huge game because you're playing again without Steph.
Yeah, for the Heat, they're going to need huge games from All-Star Tyler Hero, our good friend Andrew Wiggins, and you're looking at Bam Adebayo. Those 3 guys are going to have huge games, and then their role players going to have to chip in. They're going to miss Duncan Robinson. He's a big-time shooter. The kid Jovic had a big game here. They score 109 per game. The Heat, they give up 110. So someone has to make up those points. With the Warriors, I think it's really, let's face it, getting back to playing their solid basketball. Look, they're 16-4 since Jimmy Butler has been here. They've played great basketball. They found different ways to win. With Steph not playing tonight, some other players have to step up. I anticipate, not just because they're back in Miami, but the fact that Steph's not playing, Jimmy Butler to be ultra aggressive tonight offensively.
And you mentioned that game back on January 7th. Miami, they were on the back end of a back-to-back. They gone into double overtime against Sacramento and blew a 17-point fourth-quarter lead, but they played a lot of zone against the Golden State Warriors in that game. They really sucked the air out of that building there, and the Warriors won that game going away. So we look at the standings. They're 11 games under 500, yet they have the 10 spots submitted. Heck, they could even host a game in the play-in tournament. Fezzi, look at those standings.
That's insane, Bonte. The fact that they lost 10 games in a row and they're still in the playoff hunt, I mean, that's a tough thing to say. But for the Warriors, you understand that they've lost a lot in a row. So, and Andrew Wiggins is playing incredible basketball right now. He just had 42 points last game against the Charlotte Hornets. So they could be trending upwards. Who knows, right, at this point in the season. So you don't want to be the team that lets them get back into the hunt right now.
Willie, let the people know what you want to do about to play a tournament when you're under 500.
To me, they should deactivate the play-in tournament if those teams are not above 500.
That's like every team in the box in the East.
No, if 7 and 8, you don't drag 7 and 8 down to 9 and 10. Make 9 and 10 to achieve more. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're rewarding losing in my mind. So, I mean, it doesn't bother me. That is what it is. But to me, when I look at the stands, I'm like, why would you have 9 and 10 included when they're all under 500? Now, if they're all above 500, if 7, I like to play in. To a degree. Not really. I like it as much as the in-season tournament. But I'm trying to come around. But when you see those standings, and they just lost 10 out of 11 and maintained their position. That tells me something's not right.
And the Bulls are running tryouts.
But it gives them some of the...
Running tryouts and making progress. Hold on. They're running tryouts and they're championship contenders at the same time. I'm confused.
We all are, Willie. We'll be watching the 9-10 game because Kobe White will be in that game, right?
I love Kobe White. Back-to-back player of the week.
I'm still rooting for Miami to make it to the finals, y'all.
The Dubs have some dirty work to clean up on defense. We'll break down the bad tendencies next on Warriors Pregame Live. for the Golden State Warriors down in Miami for Jimmy Butler's return, of course, and for the Pajimski and Moses Moody in the backcourt as Stephen Curry will miss his 12th game of the season, this time due to a pelvic contusion. So Gary Payton II will get to start, and they'll go small ball 5 with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler at the 3. So one thing that we've been monitoring is the points in the paint. The last 5 games for the Golden State Warriors, they're at minus 54 when it comes to points in the paint. The last 3, minus 46 as Atlanta, Toronto has had their way inside that painted area. And Fez, you're going to break down some of the defensive lapses the Warriors have had over the last week.
That's right, Bonte. That's because defense wins championships. Can the church say amen?
Amen.
That's what I'm talking about, Bonte.
Hallelujah.
Right here is a breakdown defensively. You can't let him get by you. But if he does get by you, Quentin Post right here, you can't reach from the strong side. If everything breaks down, there has to be a low man here. This is Jimmy Butler to protect the paint. All these things are things that work in a string. Right here, Trae Young. Trae Young is a guy that can get by anybody. But you have to be the second guy right there, low man, protecting the paint. Guys have to work together. Jimmy Butler helps in, somebody's got to come out. But Jimmy Butler is also strong side, helping on the guy driving to the paint. So these are breakdowns for the Warriors. You don't get to win games like this. This is why you give up 40 points in the first quarter against the Atlanta Hawks.
Point of attack defense. We talked a lot about that. When they struggle, that's a big problem.
No doubt. Atlanta shot 65% in the first quarter, 60% in the first half, and had their way offensively. But it also goes back to the Toronto game when Toronto dominated the paint by 28 against the Golden State Warriors. But Miami's going to employ a lot of zone defense, which we saw back on January 7th. How do the Warriors navigate against that zone?
Yeah, the Miami Heat play the most zone in the league. So this is what you don't want to do. The last thing you want to do is get passive and just throw the ball around the perimeter. This is why the zone is effective when you do not penetrate the paint. Now you can do it either way. You know, dribble penetration's fine, but you got to get the zone to collapse to open up shots. For me, this is without Jimmy Butler. With Jimmy Butler in the lineup, huge difference. The thing you want to do is get that ball to the middle of the paint right here where TJD is, catch there, face, and make a play. You can do some false action on the perimeter just to occupy these players. Look how wide open slow-mo is there. That's where the ball needs to get to the nail, and then you make that zone pay. The last thing you want to do is just throw the ball around the perimeter and launch up three-point shots. Worst comes to worst, run your man-to-man plays. You want to be aggressive. Teams employ the zone to take the air out of the basketball, to slow the tempo down, and they're basically telling you they don't want to play man-to-man defense. You got to make them pay.
I smell Jonathan Kuminga coming off the bench against this zone as well, alongside Jimmy Butler in that mid-post area where they could attack that basket, Fezzi.
Absolutely. Jonathan Kuminga is really important for his ability to drive, to score at the rim, and his athleticism to rebound the basketball. That's what Steve Kerr has been imploring him to do more of, and his athleticism is going to be really important. You're going against Bama Debayo. You're going against Tyler Hero. All these guys, you're going to need the youth and strength of Jonathan Kuminga.
That's a good point, Bonte, because when you play in zone, it does open you up to offensive rebounding.
Right. And the shooting. Do we have any concerns with the shooting now without Stephen Curry tonight? They struggled with their shot against Atlanta from the three-point line there. Is any concern there against that zone defense?
I think they have plenty of shooting on the floor. The thing is to create high-quality shots. And the way you do that is the dribble penetration, or ideally, I think, is get the ball to that nail area, and then the zone collapses and you kick out for open three.
There you go, as he fell. As we check out the best records since February 8th, yes, the Warriors are on fire right now. 16-3 with Jimmy Butler plays in the game. They have some of the best records. Oklahoma City, Boston, Cleveland, they're all championship contenders. Can't sleep on the Detroit Pistons as well at 14-6, but the Warriors are trying to get back to their winning ways as we send it back down to Miami for a little early tip hit from Fitz and Buki.
So the sports world we live in is Jimmy Butler comes back to Miami, and here it is, his former team, and Andrew Wiggins, who was traded. But the reality is there's 11 games left in the season, and every game is so critical for the Warriors and so critical for the Heat, because the playoffs is what really this sport is about, and making the playoffs and playing good basketball becomes important.
That's the more important, more pertinent story is, like you're saying, both teams are in a fight, right? The Heat want to stay in the play-in tournament. They're in the 10th spot right now. They're fighting. Warriors want to stay out of the play-in tournament. They're in the 6th spot. And the Heat, the last 16 games have been playoff type of stress, and they've been struggling. They did lose 10 in a row before beating Charlotte. But you're focusing on all the things you can do to control these games the way you know you can, right? Transition defense, getting off to better starts. Warriors know they have to do a much better job. They didn't do that against the Atlanta Hawks. Against Charlotte, the Heat struggled in that first quarter as well, so both teams are kind of coming out with that focus.
And if you look at it for the Warriors, you don't want the end of the year to say, if they had a better first quarter in Atlanta, or if they'd beaten Denver when they didn't have Jokic and Jamal Murray. Enough of these conversations. There's 11 games left. And this road trip, it's a long one. We've only played one game. And so whether Jimmy's return or not, winning the game becomes incredible, particularly without Steph Curry, which is a huge challenge.
Well, the sense of urgency will be there. And yes, Jimmy Butler coming back, the motivation behind that really helps for both teams. They're going to come out and play hard. But I think getting off to a great start,
yes,
that's a big part of the motivation. Both teams are going to be going at each other's heads. Does that equate to a stalemate in the first quarter where both teams are kind of struggling to score and defending at a high level? Does one team gain traction over the other? One thing's for sure, though. Listen, you don't want to get into like a back and forth with Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, all this stuff. It's all about what it takes to win, and both teams are going to go to each other's heads.
All right, so quick question. Do you have any secret sauce when you're guarding a former teammate? Do you know the skills? Do you know his moves? You know maybe some of his patterns?
Absolutely. I'm sure Andrew Wiggins, the shoot-around, their practices leading up to this, he's given him a few tidbits here and there, what the Warriors like to do. I know Spoelstra knows Jimmy Butler better than anybody. I'm sure they're talking about what to do. So strategy is going to be important. But again, these are two smart players. Andrew Wiggins having his best month of the season right now in March. Jimmy Butler has been amazing with the Warriors. So they're high IQ. They're going to figure out how to score 30 and 42 points for Andrew Wiggins the last two. Now he's been ramping up. So this will be exciting for sure.
It'll be exciting. And that's why broadcasters don't get traded, because we already know what we're going to say about everything.
All right, we're always tracking for success, courtesy of our great friends at MyFitnessPal. And our first key to success is win the points in the paint battle. Last three games has been atrocious. -16 against Atlanta, -28 against Toronto, -10 against Milwaukee. That's a -54 in the last three, Mully.
Yeah, I think, Vontae, they may not win it, but you can't get dominated. And you can offset it with good three-point shooting and Jimmy Butler leading the way to the free throw line.
No doubt about that. All right. We know about Andrew Wiggins, Fezzi Fell. They didn't want you.
They didn't want you. I mean, for Wiggs tonight, that's a matchup to watch out for Wiggs. But I love the Eric Congo part at the end. All right, I need to get an Eric Congo in tonight, and that's what JK, being patient, being decisive, driving to the rim, being able to make plays for his teammates, that's going to open up the floor for him to be able to attack later in the game. I mean, just watch Jimmy Butler a lot of times and see the pace at which he moves with. But JK has an athleticism to take it to the next level. In transition, just go. As soon as you get the ball in transition, you have the green light to do whatever you want. That's JK's third. Maybe that gives you a little bit more of a green light to also get a stop on the defensive end for the Warriors.
We talked earlier about the seamless transition for Jimmy Butler to this Warriors roster. And really what they've done, they've been able to combine two styles. Jimmy Butler's isolation play has fit seamlessly with their free-flowing rhythm offense. So for Jonathan Kuminga, to me, just as Fezzi said, in transition, play with reckless abandon. When you get to the half court, then you got to make your decisions. If Jimmy Butler's in the mid-post, you're on the outside. You're a spacer, you're a cutter, or you're a screener. Make the proper decisions. Jimmy Butler is really good at directing people. When he's down that low post with a live dribble, you see him many times pointing around. Listen to what's going on, see the floor, and make the right decision. So putting the game in two separate sections offensively for Jonathan, I think, is the way to go.
Also getting off to a great start, right? They gave up 40 to start this road trip in the first quarter to Atlanta, and they've been struggling to get off to better starts here as of late, Fezzi.
Would you say if they win the first quarter?
Win the first quarter.
So the record is significantly different when they win the first quarter. So you got to do that, but you also got to shut down guys like Bama Adebayo, and that matchup in the paint is going to be important.
There's a reason they call you starting five. So get off to a good start. Let's go. Warm up, come out sweating like a boxer, and get the W.
Oh, look, we forgot about Kyle Anderson. Had a cup of coffee with the Golden State Warriors as well. He's down in South Beach, Miami.
They didn't want you either.
Guy Santos giving him some dabs and some hugs. Jimmy Butler just ran right past him. He's locked in, folks. We'll see you at the half.
Just another game.